I'd like to say thanks for coming out to everybody. This has been a long time in the making. The story behind it is that Jim Dill presented at a magisterial district judge course in Harrisburg, and after the program, I was just so moved. I looked around the audience, and there were judges who were crying. Other judges were speechless, and you don't see that very often. And everybody just was deeply impacted. So driving back from Harrisburg that day, I decided that I had to bring this program to the community, and we had to bring this education and had to bring awareness. So I reached out to Jim Dill, and I found out that Judge Ron Arnone was also trying to get Jim to come to the South Hills. So in an unprecedented move, we joined forces. It's never been done before, where two district judges have gone together with a series of programs, and we brought Jim to the community. And just so you know, this is just one of 6 presentations over just a whirlwind 2-day tour of Jim in the South Hills with this program. We've gone to, after the 2 days are over, we're going to cover all the middle schools in the area and all the Catholic schools who decided to participate. After we got everything together, I started seeing cases that involved cyberbullying, sexting, and sextortion. And I thought back to when I was a prosecutor and defense attorney in the Navy and realized just how many cases I'd seen there. So for this reason, I thought that it's more pertinent now than ever to bring a program like this to the community. And with that said, I'd like to hand it over to Judge Arnone.
Thank you, Judge Reschenthaler. Thanks very much. Well, Judge Reschenthaler's right. We've worked really hard on this, and it's good. There's a lot of people here. I'd like to see a few more, but it's a big auditorium, big venue. So the nice part is BPTV is taping it, so a lot of people are going to be able to watch at home, which that secret probably got out, so everybody's watching at home probably. But anyways, I also have to say happy Rosh Hashanah to our Jewish friends. It is a holiday for them today, and unfortunately the schedules kind of collided, and we weren't able to reschedule, but I did want to acknowledge them as well on their holiday. A couple of things. I got the great opportunity to spend a lot of time with our presenter. He's a former colleague of mine from the Attorney General's office, and I was very fortunate to have gone through a number of training seminars, and he's one of the, you guys are in for a big treat tonight, I could tell you. He's one of the better presenters that I've ever seen, and I'm going to introduce him in a moment. But before I do that, I'm going to tell you briefly about what you're about to see, and then introduce my good friend, Senator Matt Smith here. What you're going to see is the darker side of technology. We're going to examine social networking, how information is being misused, understanding social networking and security, showing apps and methods, risky student behaviors, long-term consequences of sharing information online, stalking, cyberbullying, and sexting, and also learning ways to mitigate the risks. We provided, as many of you have, the workbooks, which Judge Reschenthaler and I put together, and there's a lot of good information in there and resources. Hopefully you'll be able to take those home and enjoy them and utilize the resources that are in there. As Judge Reschenthaler alluded to, we wanted to be proactive and bring this event to the community, and I really think what's incredible is the great response we got at the schools. This auditorium today was packed. There were kids sitting on the steps. It was incredible, and you could hear a pin drop. They were very interested and engaged, and that's really what's important. And if we were able to save just a couple kids, that's enough for Judge Reschenthaler and I. So without further ado, Senator Matt Smith is going to say a few words. Then I'm going to introduce our speaker, Jim Dill, and we will get on with the presentation. Thank you.
Thanks, Judge, and thank you very much. And it's really an honor for me to be here. As some folks know, I was born and raised here in Bethel Park, and I have 3 small kids of my own, and there is no more issue more important than this one, protecting ourselves against cyber bullying, cyber stalking, whatever it might be, and to learn from an expert like Jim Dill here tonight. I want to thank Judge Arnone, Judge Reschenthaler for bringing this presentation to all of us, because there is no more important issue. One thing I wanted to give you an update on is how many folks in here are familiar with the term intimate partner harassment? Has anyone heard of it? It's a very new issue, and it's now illegal in Pennsylvania. And what intimate partner harassment is, it actually is, it's also known by its common name, sort of slang name, revenge porn. And what it is when a perpetrator, when an individual posts an image or distributes an image to 2 or more people. So it might be on Facebook, might be via Twitter, might be via some other social media outlet of an inappropriate image of a sexual nature. And it was very, very common, still is somewhat common. And it was brought to the attention of the governor and the General Assembly that we needed to address this particular issue. Because up until July of this year, it wasn't a crime to post an inappropriate picture of a partner or a former partner online or distributed via email. It was something that was totally legal in our system. So what we did was get together in a bipartisan way, and in July of this year, the governor signed Act 115. It was sponsored by Representative Tom Mert, who is a state representative from Montgomery County, Republican state representative. And we worked in a bipartisan way to make sure this happens. It's now a crime to engage in intimate partner harassment, to post one of those pictures, distribute one of those images via the email, via online, in any particular way. It's a crime. And not only did we make it a crime, but we gave the Attorney General long-arm jurisdiction, which means that not only only one of the individuals, either the victim or the perpetrator, needs to be located physically in Pennsylvania. So if a perpetrator is located in Maryland, New York, Ohio, whatever it may be, but the victim is physically located in Pennsylvania, that perpetrator, even though they don't reside in Pennsylvania, can be brought under the full weight of Pennsylvania law. So that was an important change. It also allowed for a civil action in those cases, because in many instances the victim loses financially. They may have an adverse economic decision made with their employment or some other thing like that. And we allowed for a civil action to be brought by that victim against the perpetrator. And that's just one of the ways we're trying to adapt to this changing world in the 21st century, where so much of our communication is done online. And so this is such an important presentation, because if you wait until someone God forbids, one of your kids is a victim of some sort of cyber crime or an attempted crime, at that point it's too late. In this instance, it's very important not to be reactive, but to be proactive. And being proactive is really the only true way that you can protect yourself and you can protect your family against this sort of crime. So it's an honor for me to be here. I want to thank the judges for bringing this presentation to Bethel Park and to the South Hills. It's a very, very important issue in this day and age. Without further ado, I'll turn it back over to Judge Arnone to introduce our guest of honor. Thank you very much.
Okay, we're going to get started. So Jim Dill not only is a great guy, but he's also, I was going to say something, but I better not.
Not good.
He's also a great friend. And Jim is a summa cum laude and a graduate of the Indiana University of Pennsylvania with a BA in criminology. He has a vast working knowledge and experience in law enforcement and an over 30-year career in the Attorney General's office. Specifically, he was the Chief Deputy and Director of the unit responsible for electronic surveillance investigative technology, and counter surveillance matters. Jim is an excellent presenter, and without further ado, I introduce you to Jim Dill.
Thank you, Ron. And before we begin here today, I really want to acknowledge the sponsors who supported this program. Without their assistance and financial help, we couldn't have done this. So like I said, we're doing 6 schools in this community program in 2 days, and the kids have been truly amazing. But I really want to thank Bethel Park Municipality, the law offices of Joe Cavelli, the law offices of Hanchik and Pratt, the law office of Scott Lautner, the West Jefferson Hills Chamber of Commerce, the Pleasant Hills Rotary, St. Louise de Marlac School, St. Thomas More School, Bethel Park School District, South Park School District, Upper St. Clair School District, West Jefferson Hills School District, chiropractor Dr. James Weiner, chiropractor Dr. Guy Reschenthaler, and Judge Ron Arnone and Judge Guy Reschenthaler. You could see it was a real team supportive effort to get this all going together, and I really wanted to take a moment to thank them before we begin. Now we're going to talk a little bit about the darker side of technology. Technology is so pervasive in our everyday lives. We take it for granted anymore. If you leave your phone at home, you're lost without it. We use our MP3 players, our digital TVs, our social networking. It's just become such an everyday part of our lives. But the problem is, especially with children, in this day and age, we're writing cell phone policy for K through 5 now. Elementary schools, they have to write cell phone policy because we got 4th and 5th graders carrying not just cell phones, but they're carrying Androids or iPhones with them. And these kids know how to use the technology. I tell them all, you guys probably know how to use this technology better than I do, but you don't understand the technology. And there's the difference. Using it, but not having, these are such powerful instruments we give our kids. But they don't have the life experience or the maturity yet to deal with some of this stuff. So we're going to talk a lot. Our goals here and objectives for the next hour or so are to look at the darker side of some of the common technology we have and how it relates to students and parents and teachers. We're going to talk about things like sexting and sextortion, cyberbullying and viral shaming. We're going to look at these everyday technologies that lend itself to these issues. And my goal here, folks, is to raise your awareness as parents, as members of the community, give you a better understanding, and provide you a couple ways to mitigate or prevent these things from happening to you or your family members. But my ultimate goal here, folks, is safety. And I could give you so many different examples. There was a young lady in a school district not far from here. She was a 7th grader. President of her class, outstanding athlete, honor roll student, everything going for her. She was dating a 10th grader at the time. That 10th grader put a little pressure on her. That pressure was to send a photo of her, in a state of undress. She felt that she should. She was going to marry this boy. She was convinced she was going to marry this boy, so she did. They had a falling out, and he distributed that photo to a bunch of his friends. That girl now is being homeschooled. She quit all her athletics. She refuses to go back to public school. Her whole life has changed because of one little incident like that. Another example, this happened November of last year. 2 girls, best friends almost throughout high school, but they had a big falling out over a boy. So the one girl knew her ex-friend, wasn't on Facebook. So what'd she do? She creates a fake Facebook profile in her friend's name. Her friend knows nothing about it. She has pictures. She uploads her avatar as the picture. She knows all her contact information, her phone numbers, all that. She posts it all on Facebook. And then she says, I'm available to anyone. Well, what happens is a couple of boys see this and sees that this girl's available to anybody, and you know what goes on in their mind, so they call her. This girl doesn't know why they call her, and she says, a couple of boys want to, get together. Let's meet at the park. So she says, wow, a couple guys want to meet with you. Let's go to the park. So she goes to the park. It gets to be dark. They all of a sudden realize she's not interested in what they thought she was interested in, and they raped her. And what turned out to be a silly little prank one girl was trying to pull on another ended up in a rape. And folks, I could go on and on with different stories like this. My goal for your kids, when I talk to the schools, is to get them to think one extra second before they hit the send button. That's my goal, to think about the long-term consequence that that transmission might make throughout their entire lives. We're going to show you sample after sample, and it all begins with these devices that we call, and I don't even like calling them phones because they're not phones. They have quad-core processors on them. They're computers. But these phones, like I said, are out there. I ask your middle schoolers, everybody who has an iPhone or an Android or Windows mobile phone, raise your hand. It's stunning. Ask the judges. 90% of these kids have these computers with them now in the middle schools. And that's why they say, do you want to talk to the high school? I said, it's almost too late to talk to the high school students. I got to reach them a little bit earlier in the middle schools. But the number of phones that have gone out there, and it's not so much the kids' faults. I mean, there's a lot of peer pressure to get a smartphone. I had one person tell me that they had to buy their fifth grader a smartphone because he wouldn't answer his text messages anymore. And I said, why wouldn't he answer his text messages? Because he was too embarrassed to bring out his flip phone in front of his friends who all had smartphones. And so his dad relented. So you adults are being peer pressured into buying your kid's smartphone. But that cat's out of the bag. What we have to do is learn how to deal with it, how to understand it, and to educate your own children on some of these issues. Let's talk a little bit about a word I like called convergence. Convergence, in this instance, is how many different technologies have we merged or converged into this one little device? That's what we're going to talk about a little bit here. We're going to talk about what capabilities these smartphones have. And when we do this, we're not going to talk about any of the 1 million iPhone apps that are out there or the 900,000 Android apps because we'd be here all night. My phone's a flashlight. My phone does this, because of the apps kids download. But out of the box, what are the capabilities of these phones? And what can we do? Well, we can make and receive phone calls, obviously. We can send text messages and receive them. We can receive email. We can surf the internet. We can take photos and store them on our phones. We can take and store videos. We can record audio notes. It's an audio recorder as well. Our contact manager is in there. It's a GPS navigation device. It is a calendar. It stores documents on there. We can play music. We can play games. We can download movies and TV shows on our phones now. It can act as a modem for your laptop. It can be a wireless LAN other people can connect to. It's an e-book reader. Now with the new Apple Pay, you can pay for things on there. It's a clock, credit card replacement, a Bluetooth device. All these things we've merged into one little device. But let's think about this a second. Let's say you're at a movie theater, or you're in a taxi cab, or you're at the shopping center and you set your phone down, and you forget about it, and somebody else finds it. What could they learn about you? Let's say it's a criminal or an identity thief finds your phone or steals your phone, because cell phones right now are the #1 stolen item in the country. That's why you may be reading in USA Today and the Pittsburgh Press about cell phone companies are under a lot of pressure to put a kill switch on their phones now so they can't be reused and sold. But let's take a look at what we have here. If you lost your phone, what would I have access to? Well, I have your whole call history. I'd be able to see who you called. I'd have your text message history. And you have to understand something. If you delete a text message, it doesn't disappear from your phone. There are lots of apps that I can redo those text messages. It's a computer. When you delete a file on your computer, it goes into your recycle bin and you can recover it. Same thing happens with a cell phone. When you delete a text message in a cell phone, until that area of your phone is rewritten, there's lots of recovery tools that can get that. So I can get that. I have your emails. I have your internet history. I have all the photos you have on your phone. I have your audio notes. Contact manager, that's a big one. When I teach this for police officers classes, at one point in time, I used to get an officer to volunteer to let me look at their contact manager. I don't do that anymore. Why? Because we don't remember anything anymore. We put Social Security numbers, bank account numbers, PIN numbers, combinations. We put anything we want to remember now in our contact list. It's just stunning what I find people put in their contact list. And trust me, thieves know that. So you have your navigation device. I have your navigation, where you've been, your calendar. I know where you were and where you're going to be in the future with that calendar. Your documents on there. In the law enforcement community, I have police officers who have informant information. They have case investigations on there. We have so much information on those phones, folks. And what I'm trying to get to, treat it like a computer. Protect that device. The basic thing you could do if you don't have it is password protect the phone. At least give it the opportunity that if someone finds it, that they can't get into that device and get at your information. There's also, how many people here have some sort of antivirus for their cell phones? 1, 2. It's a computer, folks. There's lots and lots of free apps out there. Norton, Avast, AVG, Lookout, for your cell phones, because your cell phones are computers. Those devices also have phone locators if you lose your phone, and you can remotely erase your phone. There's a lot of good things you could do to protect that device that holds so much of your personal information. And I want to tell you another case that actually happened. This happened in York, Pennsylvania. I lived near there. And the reason I know so much about this is this happened to the son of a guy I went to college with. He was a 21-year-old University of Pittsburgh law student. He was home at York. He was sitting on a park bench at 11 p.m. at night outside of a club that he was at. And he was talking to his girlfriend on the phone. And the reason we know everything that happened is his girlfriend heard the whole thing. He's sitting on a bench probably about 20, 30 yards from this club he was at. It's pretty dark. He gets approached by a 14-year-old with a gun. 14-year-old sticks him up, says, "I want your wallet and your cell phone." This law student says, "Listen, here's my wallet. There's credit cards. There's a little cash in there. Please don't take my cell phone." He goes, "I have so much information on my cell phone, my class schedule, all my contacts. Please don't take my cell phone. I'm not going to give it up." The next thing his girlfriend heard was a gunshot. When the police arrived, he was dead. They caught the 14-year-old boy. And when the cops were interviewing him, they said, "Why would you kill somebody for a cell phone?" And the kid was just matter of fact. He goes, "Well, I take cell phones for 2 reasons. 1, I can resell the hardware and make money there. But 2, he goes, I make more money selling the information on the cell phone." He goes, he resells the information to identity thieves because we keep so much personal information on there. And you know what else he told the police officers? He targeted people that were on the phone. And the police officer says, "Well, why do you target people on the cell phone? Because they're distracted?" He goes, "No, because they probably got unpassword protected their phone to make a phone call. So I know their phone wasn't password protected. So if he gets the phone while they're on it, then he just keeps his finger on the phone so it doesn't go with the password so we can get access to the information." This is one of the things, if you're giving these devices to your children, you have to explain to them how much information they're putting on there and how to protect that information. In addition, these indispensable devices that become such a part of our everyday life lend themselves, though, to threatening behaviors, unwanted advances, harassment, sexting, sextortion, which we'll explain about, cyberbullying, and all these things have been contributed as a result of these powerful devices we give our kids. I'm going to show you a short video now. This was an actual situation where a young girl was harassed a number of different ways as a result of her cell phone. We'll take a look at that and we'll talk about it once you get a chance to see this video.
Intimidation at cyber speed.
Harassment by text message or social networking.
It goes far beyond the schoolyard taunt. For some teens, internet harassment can be almost impossible to escape.
I-Team investigator Hannah Pickett tonight on one girl's struggle to escape the abuse.
There's trouble.
A victim of cyberbullying and intimidation by telephone, 17-year-old Samantha asks we hide her identity.
It's exhausting and extremely stressful.
The bullying started with intimidating and threatening phone calls last month after she broke up with her 19-year-old boyfriend.
All the names under the sun, basically, all the mean names.
The phone calls then turned to multiple text messages.
A really big stack full if you print them all out.
How big is the stack? Can you show me with your hands?
About that big.
The messages too vulgar to show on TV. then turned cyber.
Although Facebook may be the greatest thing to some people, it's also like a hell for other people.
Crass statuses posted about her daily on his Facebook page.
It's been like 5 posts every hour basically when we first broke up.
The problem escalated when his friends commented on and liked those statuses.
They've said that they'd be more than happy basically to beat the crap out of me for something that I didn't do.
Not responding to the phone calls, text messages, or Facebook posts.
At first, and I thought, oh, well, it's just gonna stop. He'll get over me sooner or later.
The harassment got even worse.
He's just driving by, making you know that he's watching, and making it so uncomfortable just to even walk out of my house.
What Samantha didn't realize is what her ex-boyfriend was doing. Calling, texting, posting about her on Facebook, and circling her house could be criminal. And Bellevue police say they're seeing more and more cases like hers as social media grows.
So let's take a look at this. She broke up with her boyfriend, and it started with phone call harassment. He was using his cell phone to call her over and over again and harass her. But then it moved to the next phase, which was text messaging. And you saw the stack of vulgar text messages he received. It went from that to social networking, Facebook and Twitter. He was responding to and just harassing her that way. And then we see this in law enforcement happen all the time. You see the levels start to rise. That wasn't being effective, so what's he do next? The drive-bys. And if she wouldn't have got the police involved, the next progression normally is a physical confrontation. And she could have been hurt physically. Now, this young lady did a number of things right that I want to talk to you about. First thing she did right was she did not respond. She ignored it, and that's what you have to tell your kids to do. It's hard to do. You want to defend yourself. Parents want to defend their kids if they see it. Don't respond. It's just going to generate more activity. Second thing she did, which was extremely smart, she didn't delete the messages. As parents, we want to get that awful stuff away from our kids. We don't want our kids to see it. She printed them off. Why was that so advantageous? Because then when she did go to the police, when she saw the drive-by, she knew this was getting serious, she had something she could hand the police that they could start working on immediately. If she wouldn't have had that, if they were deleted off her phone, the police hands are kind of handcuffed. They would have to go to the social networking site. It's very difficult to recover some of those text messages. And the third thing she did, which was very smart, was she got the police involved. And I personally believe by her acting the way she did, she probably saved herself from an assault. But those are some things that these devices we give our children lead to. Now, one of the main things our kids do with their cell phones now is take photos. Does anybody, well, I know one guy does. Does anybody have a cell phone here that doesn't have a camera? One right there. I was talking to him beforehand. It's very difficult to find a cell phone without a camera. I asked your kids today at the schools, and I think in each of the 3 schools we did, there may have been 1 or 2 kids who have a cell phone without a camera on it. It's very difficult. But a lot of people don't realize that there's a lot more than just the picture there when they take it. Every digital camera follows a standard that's out there, but most people don't understand what that standard is. That standard is a digital photography standard called EXIF, which stands for Exchangeable Image File Format. You really don't need to know that term. What you do need to know is there's a lot of information that's embedded in that picture. That information can be kind of sensitive. It's called metadata, and it's invisible to the naked eye, but most photo viewers and most computers can see that information. Here's an example. Here's a photograph of one of my sons. All I did was using a Windows computer, right-click on it, went to the properties of that photograph, and then to the Details tab. And what did it tell me? It told me I had a Panasonic camera. It told me the model of my camera. It told me the exact date and time I took that photograph, and it gave me a lot of my scene information. Now, this was a point-and-shoot digital camera. And you're probably saying to yourself, well, why is that so bad? What harm is that? Well, let's take a look at this picture. I took this picture as well, only this one I took with a cellular phone. And who here can tell me what's been built into every cellular phone since the year 2005? Thank you. A GPS chip. Now, why in the world are all cell phone manufacturers putting GPS chips in a phone? Well, the answer is simple. 911. The government mandated that every cell phone manufacturer put a chip in their phone, and the intent was very good. If you drive off a bank and you break your jaw and you can't talk, but you need an ambulance, you dial 911, and public safety is going to find you. That was the intent behind it. However, so many of the apps you and your children download, including your camera, uses that GPS information by default without even asking your permission. In this particular case, on that photo that I just showed you, you have my make and model of my cell phone, a Motorola Droid, you have the exact date and time, all the scene information, and you have the GPS latitude and the GPS longitude, which, again, you get an exact map of where it is. That is by default in every photograph that's taken. And that EXIF information we're talking about, that metadata, when I email the photo, that information goes with it. When I upload a photo to a social network, guess what? That information goes with it. That's how a lot of child predators operate. That's how they know the playgrounds your kids are at, or the movie theaters, or the park they like to hang out, where they live, where they go to school. That information, and I'm going to talk a little bit about one social network right now called Flickr. Flickr's owned by Yahoo, and it's a photo sharing site. And it's nothing wrong with Flickr if you know how to use it. Like any social networking site, it's your responsibility, if you're going to use it, to understand how to set the security settings. Most social networking sites, when you join them, the default settings are everybody can see it. Flickr is another one. If I upload photos without understanding the settings, my photos are public. Anybody in the world can review my photos. I have to go into the security settings on Flickr and set it so that only my friends or my families can see it. Let's take a look at Flickr. I like to use Flickr as an example because they retain the EXIF information and they actually map it for us. And I'm just going to go online here to Flickr, and I'm going to their mapping program, and you'll see there's millions, there's 2.6 million photographs, public photos. These are only public photographs that actually have longitude and latitude based from cell phones built in there. I'm going to narrow the search down here, and I'm just going to put in photos from, let's say, an iPhone in Pittsburgh. So I'm going to do a search for iPhone photos in Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania. And we'll take a look and see what we get. There are over 868 photos that it identified with an iPhone. And I'm just going to bring one of these up here and see if I can find one that, I got to be very careful because occasionally I bring up a photo that's a little, that probably people don't realize it's a public photograph. But I'll grab one here. Let's see this person right here. And we'll just grab this guy here. I don't have any idea who he is, but this photo was taken with an iPhone. It gives the exact location where he took that photo from. And there's all kind of other EXIF information with regards to that. So I know exactly where that photo was taken, but the thing is I can go into his photo stream now. And every photo he's uploaded, I can start looking at and see if there's other photos. Maybe I can see where he hangs out, what parties he goes to. You just never know what you're going to pull up here. That's why I'm hesitant to do it sometimes. But a lot of people don't realize these photos are public. They just wanted to share photos with somebody, and they never understood their settings. But once again, a lot of people, a lot of criminals, that's how they track you. I have some other videos on how reporters found kids, how child predators have, located their victims. So how can we prevent this from happening? Well, you can go into your cell phones and make a setting change. If you have an iPhone, you can go into your settings under location services, and you can find your camera and shut geotagging off. And therefore, your longitude and latitude will no longer be on the photos you take. But once you're in there, take a look at the other apps that are using your location. See if you knew. A lot of people download these free apps and don't realize, never really read through the permissions page, and don't realize what they're giving permissions for. This was my wife's phone, by the way. She had a CNN app on there. CNN was using her location, taking her location. Now, why would CNN want her location? Local news feeds. If she was in Harrisburg, she saw Harrisburg news. If she's in Pittsburgh, she sees Pittsburgh news. So there's some legitimacy to that. You might want to share it with a company like CNN. But she also had a solitaire card game on there. Why would a solitaire card game need her position? It doesn't. But the game was free. And you know what they do? They take her location and they sell it to advertisers. That's how they make their money. They can't make money by giving stuff away. So if you didn't read the permissions and she didn't, she just clicked on it, and she was giving her location away to a card game who was selling it to advertisers. And when you notice sometimes if you're on that free app, you'll see advertisements at the top of the screen or the bottom of the screen. And it's amazing. That may be for a pizza place in Pittsburgh, because I'm in Pittsburgh right now. And you wonder, how did it know I was in Pittsburgh? Well, that's why, because you gave it permission. So you may want to take a look at your phones and your family members' phones and see if you're comfortable with everything somebody gave permission for that app to do. In fact, the FTC just took a flashlight app off the market because it wasn't even asking for your location. It was called the Brightest Flashlight app. It just took your location and sold it. So, we have to be very careful with these free apps that we download. If you have an Android phone, if you want to shut off the geotagging, you have to go into your camera settings. And in your camera settings, you're going to find one called Geotag Photos, and you want to turn that off. That's on by default in both the iPhone and the Android phone, that GPS information. Now I'm going to talk to you a little bit about text messaging. And this is a very, very confusing issue. You say, what's so confusing about text messaging? Well, there are two ways you have and your family members have of sending a text. What do you mean two ways? Well, there's a default program that comes on your phone. Everybody has a messaging app that's on their phone. And if you use the stock messaging app that's on your phone, it's going through your carrier service, like Verizon, AT&T, T-Mobile. And that stuff, there's information available to you on your account that you can actually see the numbers that are being sent, text to or text from. And I'll show you how to do that in a second. The other way is if they use an app to send a text message, a proprietary app. So let's take a look, first of all, at what happens I'm using the stock Verizon. I have a Verizon phone, and I'm just going to go to my bill on myverizon.com, and I want to show you as parents, if you want to take a look at the text messages that are on your children's accounts, you can do that. And let me just log into my account here. And once I get into my account, come on, Verizon, I'm going to come down to not view my bill, because that's just going to show me a copy of my bill. I want to go to view my usage. When I click on view my usage, and this is the same with any phone, I'll click on my phone here, and I come down to messages. And if I go to a breakdown of recent activity, folks, this is every text message that I sent or received, and a breakdown of every number that comes through here. You will see telephone numbers of every person who sent me a text or I sent a text to. And this is available to you as the account holder. So if you want to double check maybe on a family member and what text they might be saying, you're concerned about some of the texts your kids may be sending or receiving, if they're using the carrier's app, the standard messaging app, you can go look. Whether you have AT&T, T-Mobile, Sprint, it doesn't matter. That information is available. So that's one thing I just wanted to enlighten you to do. But there are dozens and dozens of apps out there that are proprietary apps. These are apps that the kids download. And they basically, the carrier, it goes out the data plan you have on your phone. So the carrier has no idea. It's part of that 2 gig plan you have. So they don't break down any of the information for you. But there are so many of these that the kids are using out there. These are just a sample of a few of them. You may have heard of WhatsApp. Google just bought them for $6 billion. Jackster. Kik is a real popular one with the kids right now. Viper, Text Plus, Hide My Text, Shady SMS. These the kids know about. And what they do is they download these apps, and because these apps are going through a proprietary server, both people have to have the app on their phone. But they are great for hiding from your parents what a child might be doing. Let's take Shady SMS, for example. You won't even see an icon for this on the phone. What it does is you go to your phone and you dial 321. That's a default password, but you can change it. And then the app opens up. But if someone's looking at your phone, if you have a parent looking at your phone, you won't see it. There's one that's a calculator app. You look at it, hey mom, I just downloaded a new calculator. And it works like a calculator. However, if I hit 111-444-777 clear in that order on that calculator, a new app opens up. An app that I can hide my text messages or my sexting messages from the rest of my family. And there are dozens of apps like this. How many are there? I'm going to do just a short search on the Android market right now for secret texting apps. You can see I have secret texting apps as my search. Take a look as I scroll through here. And you can see some of these are meant for sexting. But I'm just going to scroll through and scroll through and scroll through and scroll through. These are all proprietary texting apps that kids can use to hide their messaging from other family members. You can see there was hundreds of them out there. And one other thing, parents, you need to be aware of. I don't need cell phone service to send a text message using these apps. If I have an iTouch or an iPad, doesn't matter. If I can connect to a Wi-Fi, I can send a text message with these apps. If I have a gaming, an Xbox 360, a Microsoft X1, Sony PlayStation, I can send text messages. And a lot of times parents are looking at the phone when the text message is being sent out through the iPad or the iTouch or an Android Nexus. So keep that in mind as well. Then we migrate to something even worse. There's an onslaught now of self-destructing text messages. And I kind of blame this on Snowden a little bit. What these messages do is basically they set a time limit. And if I send you a text message, I can set that message to self-destruct in 10 seconds, in 30 seconds, in a minute. And what happens with that message? It literally is deleted from my phone, from the phone that I sent that message to, and from the server that it was on. And what happens is a lot of kids get really confident thinking, oh, I wanted to send that risque message, and now I could do it, and it's only going to show up for 10 seconds, and it's going to delete itself, and I have nothing to worry about. And Facebook has one called, it's not Poke any longer, they're calling it Slingshot. Snapchat, you've probably heard of. Tiger Text, BurnNote, Wicker. There's so many of these out there right now. The biggest by far right now is Snapchat. How many people here have heard of Snapchat? There's probably half of you. I can tell you right now, all your kids know about it. And it's an image sharing app. And when you look at Snapchat, even if you go to their website, the images they use, you're not sure if those kids are wearing clothing or not. And they really market the fact that you could send this text, this image, and it will disappear in 10 seconds. And it will. It will disappear from my phone, from that person's phone in 10 seconds. However, there's so many ways to defeat this app. When this app first came out, kids were using it left and right. In fact, 200 million messages a day is what they average right now. Facebook tried to buy them for $3 billion, and Snapchat said, no, thank you. They're making enough money on their own. And what happens is these kids are sending these messages. They think they're being safe. But what happens is the person on the other end has all kinds of different ways of defeating it. One way is, before they open up the photo, they get a buddy to take his cell phone, and when the photo opens up, his buddy takes a photo of his phone, so they get a picture of the picture. Another thing you could do is take a screenshot of the photo before it self-destructs. If you take a screenshot, the other person is notified in Snapchat that a screenshot was taken. But let's take a look at the logic there. I'm a 13-year-old girl. I just sent a semi-nude photo to my 17-year-old boyfriend, and I'm alerted that he took a screenshot of it. So now I know 30 minutes in advance that my life is going to be ruined. You know, it makes no sense. But there are so many of these apps out there that do this. And there's even one app out there now called SnapHack that if you open the Snapchat photo in SnapHack, it'll automatically save the photo to your camera roll. You don't have to do anything else. So there's so many ways that these self-destructing messages can be defeated. And then that leads to a whole nother phase of sexting. And I call sexting is where texting goes wrong. And folks, you know, I got to share some of these statistics with you. I'm not a big statistic guy, but this is such an eye-opening statistic. This is from the FBI. And this is a 4-year-old statistic. It's the most conservative statistic I could find on the internet. But teens who have sent nude or semi-nude photos of themselves, 20% of teenagers have done it. That's 1 out of 5. When I was looking at the audience today, probably 1,200 kids sitting in this auditorium, I said to myself, 1 out of 5, you know, have already done it. And it's just amazing. They break that down to 22% of teen girls, 18% of teen boys have done it. This isn't just a situation where a girl sends a boy a photo. Boys are doing it just as readily to girls as girls are to boys. And 11% of kids 13 to 16 have done it. And this is back in 2010 with these statistics. Then when they did a survey on maybe not nude, but how about sexually suggestive photos, it popped up to 39% of teenagers. 37% of girls, 40% of teen boys have. And that's from the FBI Bulletin magazine. That was one study. I looked at dozens of other later studies. The numbers are all higher. They're higher. You know, they're almost unbelievably high. So it's just amazing how many go out there. And kids just don't have that life experience or maturity to understand the consequences, the long-term consequences of their behavior. I like to show this video. I didn't show this one at the school today because of time, but I think it's an important one to talk to your kids about. So take a look at this. This is from the National Center for Missing and Exploited Children.
I'm sorry. You forget? You know I'm sneaking out. It's too early. Are you kidding? All right, 9 o'clock the party. 9:15. Not that one. 9:15.
I heard it was 2 a.m.
Check this out.
That's cool.
Yo, what up?
Whoa. Nice, oh, man. Yo, send that to me real quick. I'm not going to... Come on, send that to me.
Man, you a pimp.
Yo, you
blow that full screen. Look at that, boys. Check that out, boys. I had to send this to Mark.
Send that out now.
And that's the way it works, folks. I mean, just that boy was unintentionally, oh, he's with a buddy, he shares it one time, and then it's gone. It's out there. It's not retrievable. You know, a lot of times kids send the text messages, whether it's a boy or a girl, the sexting, because they're pressured. as a result of peer pressuring. They're dating an older person. What happens, though, it leads to all kinds of other issues like stalking, cyberbullying and viral shaming, sextortion, which we'll talk about, and even suicide. Plain and simple, it really dramatically changes their life. I told you about that girl who was the honor student, who's homeschooled now. Think about the total change in her life as a result of that. And finally, I want to show you a story, a real-life story about a young lady by the name of Jessica Logan. Take a look at what one mistake cost her.
A perfectly normal student and seemingly had the world by the tail until Jessie Logan made one awful mistake. Her mother, Cynthia.
She snapped. It was just too much for an 18-year-old girl to go through.
A year ago, using her cell phone, she took a nude photo of herself and sent it to her boyfriend. It's a new practice among teens that's come to be known as sexting. But when they broke up, she was betrayed, and that compromising photo was forwarded to the cell phones of hundreds of other teens. Jessie became the focus of ridicule and abuse.
She was being attacked and tortured, actually, by people. Things were being thrown at her.
Humiliated and frightened, last May, Jessie warned of the dangers of sexting by giving an interview in silhouette with her voice altered to NBC affiliate WLWT in Cincinnati.
I still get harassed and stuff, and I'm sorry.
Her friends say Jessie started to spiral downward.
When she would come to school, she would always hear like people calling her, "Oh, that's the girl who sent the picture. She's just a whore. She wants attention."
Then last July, she attended the funeral of a teen who had committed suicide, which may have put her in the wrong state of mind. Jessie returned home and did the same thing.
You just never think that a person like Jessie would even think about doing something like that.
Numerous cases of sexting have been reported around the country. The problem, doctors say, teenagers are often unable to recognize long-term consequences.
In the moment, it's to a teenager just fine. It's when it goes to the whole school or to the employer or to the college admissions office. That's when the trouble, and that's what they're not thinking about.
It is something that haunted Jessie Logan.
So you could see what a dramatic change, obviously, she took her life as a result of one photo. And that's what the senator, when he's talking about the revenge porn bill, is so important that's now passed. But there are other sexting issues as well. A lot of parents can't read their kids' text messages because they don't understand them. There's so many acronyms out there that kids use, and those emoticons, those little smiley faces, you may not realize it, but there's hundreds of them, and a lot of them have very sexual connotations. I give you a tool here. Like these are examples. GNOC, that's a common one kids use. GNOC stands for Get Naked on Camera. Another one, KPC. This is a real popular one amongst the kids. You're smiling. Do you know what that one means? Keep parents clueless. And the final one is, and probably one that you all should know, is PIR. Parent in room. Be careful what you say. So these are all key type of acronyms that a lot of times you may see on your kids' phones. There is a site called NetLingo. NetLingo is an unabridged dictionary of acronyms. I warn you, though, do not open this in front of young children because it includes every four-letter word, every sexual connotation there are acronyms for. And the kids know them, but it's very graphic in description. But if you're trying to figure out what's being said, this is my go-to site for acronyms. Other ways kids are trying to fool you. This survey was done by McAfee this past year. And McAfee said, kids know how to clear your browsing history. I don't know how many of you know when you're surfing the internet how to clear your browsing history, but a lot of kids know how to do that so that you can't go back into the computer and see what they did. They know how to close the browser when a parent comes in. There's actually apps out there that you can set up that you can hit a hotkey. And when a parent comes in a room, your math homework comes up on the computer and they don't see exactly what you were doing. They can hide and delete their instant messages or their videos. They lie about their online activities. They use a computer that their parents don't check. Maybe it's an older computer, maybe it's a computer at a friend's house. They use their mobile devices. We give them these smartphones. I know some parents that go to great extent to protect their computers at home. They run software like Cyber Nanny on it. They put the computer in a public area so they can always see it being used. And then they hand their kids an iPhone with unlimited internet access. And, it kind of defeats the purpose. But a lot of kids will just use that internet-enabled phone. They know the privacy settings to use. They use private browsing modes. Whether you're using Firefox or Chrome or Internet Explorer, they all have private browsing modes now that wipe out the history and any cookies on a computer when you use it, so you can't track it. And a lot of them are using private email addresses now that are unknown to the parents. They have one email address they use with their parents, and they have their own private one. And finally, some even have double social networks, 2 social networks. One is the one they use to communicate with family members, and the other one's the one they use to communicate with school friends and other people. And their parents only know of the one. That study was done by McAfee. Many parents are just plain intimidated by technology and don't even know what to look for. So what can be done with sexting? Well, there are a lot of apps out there now that parents can put on a phone that run in the background. These apps vary all over the place. Some of them allow you to control the time when your child can get on the internet. Maybe you shut it off at 11 and turn it on again at 7. Some of them let you have full control. You'll see every text message, every internet site, every phone call made. They're really spy apps that are being sold to parents. But they are out there. Are they a good idea? Well, that's up to you as a parent, what you want to do. I do like controlling the fact that I can stop communications coming into my child after 11 o'clock. And not start it again until 11. And with the cyberbullying that's working 24 hours a day, these kids all charge their phones in their bedrooms. They're under so much pressure. When we were bullied on the playground, we get to go home and we were away from it. They are bullied by their cell phones. And it's 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. They're under tons of pressure that way. If a message comes in at 3 o'clock in the morning, they're looking at it. And then they can't go back to sleep. It really puts them under a lot of pressure. Parental involvement is key. You folks here are learning about this, and that's great. You need to educate your teen respectively. Explain long-term consequences, and that sexting is a crime. Ask these judges. They've seen enough cases. I used to tell people to keep the device age appropriate. That's almost impossible to do anymore. It is. You go to any of the stores and you can't find phones that aren't smartphones. If your child receives an inappropriate message, don't delete it. Call the authorities if you want to prosecute. Trust but verify, communicate with your child. And then once again, take inventory of all gadgets that can take or store photos or videos or text. That means game consoles, MP3 players, iPods, all those things that can connect to the Wi-Fi, can download photos, can do text messages. And finally, there are apps out there that conceal or password protect messages. If you see one of those apps on your kid's phone, you may want to ask them about it. This next area we're going to talk about breaks my heart. This is an area, it's a relatively new area, it's called sextortion. And the best way for me to explain what sextortion is to give you an actual case. A young girl went to a basketball game. It was an away game. School was probably 30, 40 minutes away. She was 14 years old. She comes back from the away game. She gets a message from a 17-year-old on Facebook. He says, "Hey, I saw you at the game. I go to the other school. I think you're really cute." So the girl friends him and they start communicating. Unfortunately for her, that 17-year-old boy was a 54-year-old male with a total fake profile on Facebook. He had a picture of a 17-year-old boy up there, a good-looking 17-year-old boy. He had all the interests and hobbies of a 17-year-old boy. But what this 54-year-old male did, nothing right away. They call it grooming. What he did was he groomed her. He just communicated with her very, very friendly for a couple months to get her trust. Then he sends her this message. He says, "I think I'm really falling in love with you. You're very beautiful. I've seen a lot of pictures of you, but I'd really like to see a little bit more of you. But I have too much respect for you to send me a naked picture of yourself. But maybe something like you in your bra and panties. That's no worse than a bikini, and I just want to see a little more of you. So the girl thinks to herself, wow, he respects me. He doesn't want me to send a sexting picture. Just wants, and really, what bra and panties? That's no worse than a bathing suit. So she poses suggestively and sends him the photo. Now the trouble really begins. He responds back to her, I really like that photo. It was gorgeous. I kind of changed my mind. I want to see a little more of you. Would you send me a photo of your topless? She responds, absolutely not. She goes, I'm not going to do that. You told me you respected me, and now you're asking me that. The answer is no. He responds back, oh, I think you will, because if you don't, I'm going to send that photo of you in your underwear to your family, your friends, your church group. I'm going to post it on Twitter, Facebook, all the social networks. Everybody's going to know. Now, think about this girl now. Oh my gosh, my parents are going to find out? He knows my church groups. He knows everything from my Facebook page. Oh my gosh, what if these people find out? Oh, she responds back, I'll send you one more photo. And she sends a topless photo. And then it just goes on from there. And it ends up as a sexual favor. And this is happening all over the country. I'll show you just dozens of cases that happen like this. Children as young as 8 years old have been, they call it sextorted, extorted for sex. This guy here, he went online, took a picture of the back of Justin Bieber's head, and uploaded and created a fake Facebook page. Well, it wasn't Facebook, it was another social network. Then he was friending 11, 12, and 13-year-old girls and saying, I'll get you backstage passes to my next concert if you send me a nude photo. And he operated for 2 years like this, getting nude photos. I forget, they found over 200 photos on his computer. Oh, wrong case. They found over 200 photos on his computer. Why was he able to work so long like this? What 12-year-old's going to go to their daddy and say, Daddy, I sent a nude picture for tickets and I didn't get my tickets, you know? But anyway, he ended up going to jail for 35 years. This just happened last year. Maybe some of you heard of it. Miss Teen USA. She went on TV and said, somebody claims to have naked pictures of me. I don't know where they came from, but they said that, you know, if I didn't have a sexual relation with them, they were going to put them on the internet. Nobody believed her. She went to the FBI. The FBI took a look at her computer. And you know what they found? There was a virus on her computer. And they linked it to a fan mail letter that came in, an email from a fan. And she clicked on a link in that email. And she gave herself a virus that she lost control of the camera on her laptop. She would take her laptop into her bedroom all the time to play music. Her laptop was open. This guy surreptitiously was taking photographs of her in various states of undress while she was in her bedroom listening to music. All proven. James Abrams of Tacoma, California got arrested for it. They tracked it back to him. But the problem is again, this is all examples of how people are sextorting. You know, kids now, there was one group of teenagers, they were having a sleepover. They went and one of the teens, they were on these different chat sites. There's Meebo, there's a chat roulette where you go on with your camera and your microphone on your laptop and you talk to somebody you have no idea who it's going to be. Anybody ever hear of chat roulette? It's one of the hottest ones with the teens now. You click on a button and one time you may be talking to a lovely young girl from England. The next time you got a total pervert doing something very obscene on the screen. But anyway, these girls ran into a group of guys and one of the guys edged one of the girls into flashing. And the girl thought, what's 1 second? So she flashes 1 second. What she didn't know was he took a screenshot of that. And tried to blackmail her or sextort her as well. So I just want to call this to your attention, folks, because these cases happen all the time. What can you do? Well, you got to educate your kids. I mean, you need virus protection on your computers, and you got to keep that updated. But that alone isn't going to protect you, because if you click on a link sometimes, your computer thinks you're voluntarily loading that application. So I encourage people to turn their computer or close it when they're not using it. I know a lot of people that actually put a sticky note over their webcam when they're not using it. And be very, very guarded on opening attachments from people you don't know, because those attachments could have something attached to them. The last area I want to talk about is cyberbullying and viral shaming. And there's a little distinction between those two. A lot of people are bullied because they got big ears, they walk funny, they talk funny. Viral shaming, though, is maybe a good kid does something stupid, like that young lady that sent that sex message in a community not too far from here. She was brutalized online. And what happens is even good kids jump on board of this viral shaming. They start shaming that person. And again, because it's 24 hours a day with these phones, it is such pressure on these kids. Statistically, it's just amazing how many kids are being cyberbullied at one point in their lives. And there's so many anonymous social networks now. What do I mean by an anonymous social network? You don't have to register with your name. In fact, they encourage you not to, so you can be anonymous. One of the biggest ones is Ask FM that's out there. And Ask FM alone has been contributed to well over a half dozen suicides. These are just 4 victims that committed suicide after being cyberbullied on this anonymous network. 14-year-old Hannah Smith. She was told to drink bleach, get cancer, go die. 16-year-old Jessica Laney. 15-year-old Sierra Pugsley. 13-year-old Erin Gallagher. Faced vicious bullying about her weight and her looks, and she committed suicide. It really is toxic. Yik Yak is another one of those sites. You may have heard Yik Yak is a location-based. So anybody who says a message, it goes out to anybody within a 1.5-mile, 2-mile area. They shut it off in Chicago. They ordered Yik Yak not to be used in Chicago because in the schools there were too many bomb scares and things like that the kids were using because this is an anonymous network. There's one called Whisper. There's one called Secret. These are all anonymous social networks now. The kids are sharing very, very private information, or they think it's private. Cyberbullying, it's like a virus. It just spreads so quickly and puts so much pressure on these kids. Now let's take a look at a couple case studies. This young lady was 12 years old. 12 years old. She was cyberbullied so bad, she committed suicide. And what's even worse is these 2 girls, 12 and 14, were the ones that were doing it. And after she committed suicide, one of them posted on Facebook, yes, I bullied Rebecca and she killed herself and I don't give a. And you know what the last word is. And a 12-year-old posted that on Facebook. The sheriff got so angry, he arrested both girls, booked them, and put them in jail overnight. They had to release them then and get them counseling and things like that. But it truly is amazing. Other stories. I want to talk about Amanda Potts here a second. Amanda Potts, 15-year-old, went to a party. That party was serving Gatorade with grain alcohol mixed in it. I don't know whether she knew what she was drinking or not. I have no way of knowing that. But she drank and she got so drunk she passed out. 2 boys with her sexually assaulted her while she was passed out and videoed the whole thing. Then distributed the video. When she went to school Monday, she knew something was wrong. When she went to school Monday, someone showed her the video. That night she went home and hung herself. Ratea Parsons, this young lady here did nothing wrong. She just got sexually assaulted, but her victim, or her perpetrators, videoed it and posted it. And everybody remembers Steubenville, Ohio a couple years ago. Those football players did the same thing. They're in jail as a result of the video they took of a sexual assault. But, think about the victim. That's out there forever. So these stories exist, and they're everywhere. I'm going to close with one story here, Amanda Todd. And the reason I like to close with this young lady posted this video herself. And it's really what happened to her. And it encompasses a lot of what I'm talking about here today. The power, the darker side of social media, the darker side of technology. Look at her story, and then we'll open this up for questions and answers.
someplace to go. I never said thank you for that. I thought I might get one more chance. What would you think of me now? So lucky, so strong, so proud. I never said thank you for that. Now I never have a chance. May angels lead you in. Here you meet my friends. On the sleepless roads, the sleepless go. May angels lead you in.
Folks, Amanda Todd committed suicide shortly after doing that video. This is what I mean by the darker side of technology and its unintended consequences. I ask that you help me pass this story along, help educate our kids, help them understand the powerful tools that they currently possess. I thank you very, very much for your attendance here this evening. I'm going to invite the judges back up here for a question and answer period if anybody has any questions. We'll also be willing to stay if you have anything you want to discuss privately. Thank you very, very much, and I'll turn it over to the judges now.
Thanks, Jim. That was amazing.
Thank you.
We wanted to have a Q&A session now, so if anybody has any questions for either myself, Judge Arnone, or Jim, we're available.
It's always available. I know that Chief Deputy Jim Dill would be happy to do this in other districts and other areas. We plan on trying to take it out there in a little broader sense into smaller classrooms in our districts as well. We're not going to be able to do it quite as good as Jim Dill, but at least get the message out there as much as we possibly can.
If anybody wants a business card, I'd be happy to provide one.
Yes. It's a really good question. I don't have specific statistics for southwestern PA.
I don't either, but there are so many good websites out there. StopBullying.gov. There are a number of cyberbullying websites out there that do provide the statistics regionally. And you should just go and do a little research yourself. I think you'll be surprised.
That's a good question. One of the things that I tell my own kids, and certainly that I would recommend that you tell theirs or anyone that, any kids or nieces, nephews, family members, you have to just use common sense. And it's the difference between right and wrong, making the right decision, being a leader, not a follower. And, you know, one of the things I like to tell the kids is, if you don't want your grandmother to see it on a billboard driving down the street, don't send it. Pretty simple stuff, but hopefully that makes them think a little bit about making that mistake of sending something. Yes, sir.
Something that struck me, you said don't reply, and that generally that makes sense, but sometimes maybe, you know, an explanation, especially if people are really upset, you don't think that you should, you know, attempt at first to give a simple explanation, just so that everybody else doesn't jump on the one-sidedness of it. I can see if you get defensive or even try to counter.
Sure.
You know, the odds are against you, but it could be a simple explanation, like, you know, whatever the case may be. I just want to make sure I'm clear what I'm.
You know, everything has to be a case-by-case situation, but what professionals have found is the more responses, the more people get involved, the bigger it gets. That's a general principle. If you feel, or you maybe are talking to a trusted adult in a situation like this, and they feel maybe a simple explanation to explain it, but kids don't think in the same terms as adults do, and they're not forgiving, and I'm sure you all realize this, and it's just sometimes by participating, you inflame it. So, I mean, don't get me wrong, what I said was a general principle, but I would definitely take it on a case-by-case basis.
And 1 second, Stace. Judge Reschenthaler and I have seen a lot of these cases, and even in our courts. And Detective Lance, would you stand up for a minute? We're not going to get into any specifics, but we've had some recent cases in the area, and one pretty significant one. Again, it's ongoing, so we can't get into any specifics, but I have the detective stand up because he's very well aware of some serious charges and felony charges that are pending against an individual. you want to just tell a little bit about the case? Come on up. Come on up so everybody can hear you.
It's a pretty interesting case in the fact that Mr. Dill just explained all these cases in a case-by-case basis. It hits home very significantly because it's almost identical in a lot of the same terms that we just had here. We're dealing with it, these kids are young, so we can't get too into what we're talking about case-specific wise, but it's a Twitter case. Facebook, Twitter, they're all the same as far as the potential for this damning information to get out there. A young lady was pretty much bullied with the aspect of she was in a relationship, had some sort of trust, the relationship ended, and as all these cases were, it went bad. And pictures were put out there, and we are now dealing with it because of an age discrepancy. He was an adult, she is still a juvenile, and the felony charges that Judge Arnone referred to involve child porn because of her age. He is now looking at lifetime Megan's Law offenses, reporting. It's a case that's, we're learning day by day about it, and it's very interesting. And it's just like these. It could have gotten much worse, and we're learning. But the new crime that was referred to that they said, I was just talking to the magistrate's office over here, that new crime is in fact going to be in play with this case. And when I say we're learning, that's kind of what I'm referring to. It's a new charge. I don't even know the severity of the level. Do you know, Judge, if it's a misdemeanor or a felony?
I believe it's a
Okay. Another serious charge that's going to be on this young man. In my opinion, anyone that has sons knows, you see the guys sitting in the stands, it's a joke to them, it's funny, it's ha-ha, it's oh boy. Now my life is going to be turning a completely different turn at 20. It's very eye-opening, and it's tough for us to deal with. We try to make sure that the victims are well aware of the circumstances. But I can also see the effects of a 20-year-old kid's life being completely changed. And, we're dealing with both ends of it. Yes, sir?
Without getting into specifics, I heard, does this have to do with the TJEF football game?
No. No, it does not.
Do you guys know about that?
No.
What happened with that? Has anybody heard of anything?
Thank you, Detective. No, we don't know anything about that. Stacy, you had a question?
Misdemeanor 3, right?
I believe it's a misdemeanor 3 right now, yeah.
Any more questions, Mrs. Zinsky?
Yeah, I would just like to know if there is any program that you are doing or going to do with teachers, administrators of these schools. Having taught, I'm not teaching now, retiring after 36 years in West Jefferson Hills, but my concern sitting here listening to all of this from a teacher point of view is that very often teachers, guidance counselors, and administrators may become aware of problems, and sometimes hands are tied because of privacy issues. And I could see much value in people like yourselves instructing teachers, guidance counselors, and administrators as to exactly what they should do lawfully when they become aware of a problem or think that there might be something going on and not have concrete evidence of the problem.
Well, that's so interesting you would say that, because I was approached just this afternoon in one of our middle schools about the same exact point, where someone asked a question about what can faculty do, can we do a presentation on that? And this is the first series of programs that Judge Ron Arnone and I have teamed up on and brought to the community, and we've already been planning other programs, and that's one program that I'd like to have, and it's something that I'd like to look into. We've been even talking about doing something similar to that in the spring. So, and if there's a superintendent in the house, there's I think 2 or 3, right? So we can work with them.
Still my thunder there. I was just going to say, there's our superintendent, Nancy Rose, and she's made this evening possible for us, and our superintendent from Jefferson Hills, Dr. Panza. So, yes, I mean, and that's the big thing. It's about getting together and uniting with principals like Ken Clace from St. Louis de Marillac, and I see a lot of our school board members here. You know, that's what's important. It's about teaming up and doing things for the benefit of our children and our communities. And these great folks are represented by partnership. We can try to make a difference and combat some of these very serious problems and issues that we see before us in our society today. Yes? Track phone?
Well, a track phone is a prepaid cell phone, and there's dozens of them out there. Boost, track phone, Virgin Mobile. What was your question specifically?
You know, you showed how you can look at the text in Verizon.
Oh, yeah. You don't. The track phone is not a cellular carrier, first of all. Track phone uses either AT&T service or Verizon service. You don't have a website to go to like you do with T-Mobile or AT&T or Sprint to take a look at the activity that takes place on the bills. So that I'm aware of anyway. The prepaid cell phones have always been a headache for law enforcement.
Any other questions? Yes, Jody.
I don't have an answer for you there. I'm more of the technology behind it. And statistically, I've seen it happen both ways, especially the viral shaming issues. Girls and guys both jump on that bandwagon. But to ask you, maybe they can answer that question a little better.
Sure. Jody, just from what I've seen in court, is about 50-50. So I can't say anything beyond that, Judge Renetti.
I can't distinguish between a percentage of, whether it's male or female. I think it's happening out there at quite an alarming rate on both, both males and females. But I'm sure, again, there's statistics out there. Just don't have them. Maybe you can research that for us. Yes? In a similar manner. A lot of the material some of the material that you saw tonight was geared a little more toward parents. Some of the things the kids won't see. But it's very, very similar. We did 3 presentations today, and they were very attentive. You could hear a pin drop. I really think it's going to have a very, very solid impact on the students. So you can rest assured that they're going to gain something out of it. Great question.
I did exclude some of the information, like the apps kids are using, like the calculator apps. That does not. I showed it to you guys, but I don't like to put ideas in kids' heads. So if that was your concern, don't worry.
Yes.
Oh, yes. It's what I use on all my programs to conclude. A lot of your kids had seen it already.
Yeah. Great point, and yes, it was very powerful. I agree. Anything else? Go ahead. Oh. Okay. So it was asked and answered, I believe. Anything else?
Got one over there.
Yeah. Yes. Yes.
Yeah, so what we did is we had a presentation at each one of our middle schools, with the exception of Pleasant Hills Middle School, which is tomorrow. So just to recap, today we went to Upper St. Clair, and I believe we had 6th grade through 10th grade. We then went to Bethel Park. We were right here, and we had, that's right, 7th through 10th. And this whole auditorium, as Judge Arnone referenced at the beginning, was filled. We had students sitting on the stairs. We had students standing in the back. It was packed. And then we went to South Park Middle School, where we had grades 6th through 8th. Now tomorrow we're coming to Upper St. Clair, and we're going to have the local Catholic schools. They're going to bus their students in for that presentation. All local Catholic schools were invited, and most decided to partake. And then we're going to go to Pleasant Hills Middle School at 1 o'clock for 6th through 8th grade. Yes, ma'am?
What's the percentage of perpetrators are caught, and can you explain spoofing?
Explain, what was that last one?
Spoofing.
Oh.
Yeah. The percentage that are caught. Go ahead.
Oh, I actually don't have a percentage breakdown. I was hoping you had that.
I don't. I'm sorry. I don't have the statistics on that. But I will say, because of technology, it's a very high percentage. I'm not going to give a number because I don't know what it is, but I'm going to say that it's, in the 75, 80 percentile. And I said I wasn't going to give a number, but I know that it's high because the technology, like this gentleman here, that with their innovative investigative techniques are able to track that information and provide it to law enforcement so that we can get the information. The other one she had was on.
But you bring up a really good point. Spoofing and proxy servers. What she's talking about here is people who manipulate their IP address of their computers or their phones so that it comes up to another country or another location. That is a serious problem. And those people that are using proxy servers, and in this country, there is no violation of any law using a privacy service. And the Electronic Frontier Foundation gives a free service called Tor, onion routing away, that purposely hides, criminals use to hide behind. And it's impossible for us to break. And Tor, I mean, their intent is very well, these privacy groups have very, very good intentions. And everybody should have a right to privacy, and I agree with that. But in situations where there's abuse, it just ties our hands. There's nothing we can do in those situations on spoofing and on proxy servers.
Well, it's getting kind of late. I want to thank you for your attention, your questions, and also the support of our communities, the school districts, the great students that we have in our respective districts, and just thank you all for coming tonight. It meant a lot to us, and you guys should be proud of yourselves for being here and realizing how important the subject matter is to our communities, to our kids. And now you're a little more educated on the issues, and I'm sure you'll want to be more inquisitive and find out more about it. You can utilize the workbook. There's some information in there, as well as a lot of other things on the internet that you can find out about. So thanks so much, and I'm sure Judge Reschenthaler would like to add a couple additional comments.
I know it's getting late, so I just want to thank again everybody for coming, and I want to thank Jim for making the trip to Western Pennsylvania to be here. So thank you.
It's my pleasure, folks.